The way my grandmother speaks is not the way I speak. And I'm sure that my grandkids won't speak like I am now. The English language constantly evolves and changes. Today, you'll review 5 trends in the English language to help you learn new vocabulary and new grammar rules to understand natives and sound fluent in 2025. Trend number 1, more frequent use of phrasal verbs. In 2025, knowing and using phrasal verbs is your key to understanding natives and sounding fluent and natural. But phrasal verbs are difficult to master. Each phrasal verb has multiple meanings. The meaning depends on the context. Phrasal verbs are still more casual, so their use depends on context. So although it's easier for students to learn and use regular verbs, natives prefer phrasal verbs, and this trend is growing. I wouldn't say, let's postpone the meeting. I would say, let's put off the meeting. Postpone sounds too formal and unnatural. Let's review this example. I need to telephone a repairman and inform him about the issue with the washing machine. After that, I must visit the store to purchase some groceries. Later, I will review the documents you gave me to determine if any adjustments are required. This is grammatically correct, but to me, it sounds unnatural. It sounds like something my grandmother would say. It sounds too formal. It doesn't sound like how English is spoken in 2025. So let's change this to sound modern and professional. I need to call a tech and let them know about the problem with the washing machine. After, I'll swing by the store to pick up some groceries. Later, I'll go over the documents you gave me to see if any tweaks are needed. Notice how visit becomes swing by as a phrasal verb, purchase becomes pick up as the phrasal verb, and review becomes go over as the phrasal verb. These are 3 very common phrasal verbs you can use in your daily life starting today. Make it your goal to learn 1 new phrasal verb per day. By the end of 2025, you'll have over 300 new phrasal verbs in your vocabulary. Trend number 2, gender neutrality. Notice the other change I made to our example. My grandmother might say, I need to telephone a repairman and inform him about the issue. This is because my grandmother assumes that technicians are male. In her lifetime, that was an accurate assumption and it was acceptable to use gendered language. In 2025, this is no longer acceptable. And that's why I said, I need to call a tech and let them know about the problem. Notice how I used a tech instead of technician. And them, even though the subject is singular. Don't worry, we'll talk about this shortly. First, let's review gender neutrality. Many of my students still use waiter, waitress. These aren't terms that are used in 2025. They may still be used by the elderly, but it's not considered modern usage. Here are the most common gender-neutral nouns you need to start using today. Instead of saying waiter, waitress, just say server is gender neutral. Steward, stewardess is now flight attendant. Policeman, policewoman, we just say police officer. Officer is gender neutral. Fireman, firewoman, firefighter is gender neutral. Mailman, woman, you can say mail carrier or postal worker. Instead of businessman, businesswoman, we now say business person. Actor, actress, this is interesting because we now use actor, but this is gender neutral, so it no longer refers to a male. It's male and female. Instead of repairman or repairwoman, like I used, you can say technician. Instead of anchorman, anchorwoman, you just say news anchor or anchor. So again, anchor is for both of them. Manpower was very commonly used, especially in the news in a business context. Now they simply say power or human resources or labor. Manpower refers to the effort by people in the workforce. Now, even the terms husband and wife. A lot of people are using gender-neutral terms and saying spouse or partner. This is an optional change because in 2025, it is still extremely common to use husband-wife, is what I personally use. Remember I said I need to call a tech and let them know about the problem. You may be confused because a tech is third person singular, but them is the pronoun for third person plural. There isn't a gender-neutral third-person singular noun or pronoun in English. Native speakers don't like saying him or her to be gender inclusive. Native speakers prefer saying them. A native speaker likely wouldn't say, after we hire the new employee, we'll need to train him or her on Monday. The new employee, this is third-person singular, but employee is gender neutral. The employee could be a male or a female. In 2025, native speakers make it a priority to be gender inclusive. To avoid using him or her, but to still be gender inclusive, a native speaker would likely say, after we hire the new employee, we'll need to train them on Monday. Let's review some other common examples. The customer had a complaint, so I directed them to our support team for assistance. The customer could be male or female. The person, male or female, the person who called earlier said they needed more information. The applicant didn't specify their preferred contact time, so I emailed them later today. Using they, their, them as gender-neutral singular is extremely common and acceptable according to major dictionaries like Merriam-Webster and the Oxford English Dictionary. You certainly can use him or her, but just know that native speakers likely won't. Trend number 4, shortening words. You may already know that tech is the short form for technician. That's why I said I need to call a tech and let them know about the problem. In 2025, the English language continues to become less formal, and shortening words definitely sounds more casual. Sometimes my students say, I really like that application. And honestly, I have to think about this for a second because I never use the word application. I only use the word app. Hearing the word application in this context isn't familiar to me, so it actually confuses me, and I have to think about what it means. And knowing these shortened words will help you understand natives. I recently used the word mayo in a YouTube live, and my student asked me what mayo is. I was confused because I thought everyone knew what mayo was. Then I realized that this student must not know that native speakers call mayonnaise mayo. I would never say mayonnaise. I only call it mayo. The word mayonnaise doesn't sound familiar to me. Let's review the most commonly shortened words you need to know. You already know that technician becomes tech, application becomes app, mayonnaise becomes mayo. How about this one? Document becomes doc, celebrity becomes celeb, advertisement becomes ad, professional becomes pro, cafeteria, caf, information, info, reputation, rep, microphone, mic. Keep adding the most common shortened words to your vocabulary to help you sound modern and to help you understand natives. Another way to shorten words is by taking two separate words and combining them. This happens in 3 main ways: contractions, reductions, and blended words. First, let's talk about contractions. Sometimes I hear students or I review writing from students that contains let us. Let us start the meeting. To me, this sounds unnatural because a native speaker in 2025 would say, Let's start the meeting. The best way to start using contractions is to form subject-verb contractions with auxiliary verbs. Native speakers rarely use the non-contracted auxiliary verb. Start saying, I've been busy lately. She's helping me tonight. He's been preparing for the presentation all week. You need to learn the correct written contraction and how to pronounce it naturally. Plus, understanding the pronunciation will help you understand natives in the real world. Now let's talk about reductions. These are natural pronunciation changes that take place in spoken English. I recommend only using these in spoken English and not written English. Although natives use these in written English, whether it sounds appropriate or inappropriate depends on context. But you can safely use them in spoken English, even in professional situations. I'm gonna review the report later. Gonna is going to. She's gotta leave by 10. Gotta is got to. Let me help you with that. Let me is let me. Keep learning these because they're key to understanding fast-spoken English. Now let's talk about blended words. What if I told you that I went on a staycation? Do you know what that is? A staycation is a combination of the words stay and vacation. A staycation is when you're on vacation, but you stay in your city or even in your home. What if I told you that she's my frenemy? What does that mean? This means that she's both my friend and my enemy at the same time. We pretend to like each other, but secretly we don't. What if I told you that I went glamping? Do you know what this means? This means I went camping, but it was more glamorous than regular camping. It's upscale luxury camping. Now, you may not feel comfortable using these blended words, and that's okay, but native speakers commonly use them. The word staycation is very trendy right now. You'll likely hear it in movies, TV shows, and even the news. Trend number 5, new words. Because the English language is always evolving, new words are created every year. Often these words are based on technological advances like ChatGPT or electric vehicles, and world events like COVID. Native speakers need to learn these new words just like you. Native speakers learn them through exposure. We hear them on YouTube or in the news or from our friends and colleagues. Often these are existing words used in a different way, like the word adulting. Of course, the word adult has existed for as long as I have, but seeing adult in the progressive form is unusual for me as a native speaker. I first heard the word adulting on Netflix. The speaker said something like, I don't feel like adulting today. This word was unfamiliar to me, but I understood the meaning based on context. And then I heard it again and again and again, and I realized that this is a new word that's popular in 2025. If it isn't clear, adulting is an informal term that refers to managing responsibilities typically associated with being an adult. So instead of saying, I don't feel like being an adult today, in 2025, it's common to say, I don't feel like adulting today. It's also very trendy to talk about side hustles in 2025. A side hustle is a secondary job you do alongside your primary job, and it's often your own business. This would be a very foreign concept for my grandmother or even my mother because people only worked one job, but now everyone wants a side hustle. You can say, I just started a side hustle making candles. Or how about the word cancel? You certainly know this word, but what about in the context of canceling JForrest English? What does this mean? This means that you no longer support me as JForrest English, and you also publicly condemn me. Please don't cancel me. So this existing word cancel is being used in a new way that I had to learn as a native speaker. Again, I learned it through exposure. Remember that the English language isn't static, it's evolving. In my opinion, becoming more comfortable with phrasal verbs should be your main area of focus in 2025. This lesson will help you master phrasal verbs. Watch it now.